try and bypass it by going through the
Yeah,
thing, but now they've blocked anything that says open claw in the headers, so it automatically goes to extra usage.
And pretend it's closed.
It changed a little bit.
And I know Theo tested that yesterday or like 2 days ago. He just did he ran inside their harness, he just ran an that said open claw in it, and charged you extra usage.
I'm not sure how feasible it would be, but
So at least from your point of view,
accessibility
this
is
is
literally
coming from news sources,
to modify safety
not from
systems for people who
So
fingers, etc. So now need to let the system as much as possible.
Yeah.
It's just a mystery, basically. Keep in mind.
I mean, Otto said this on our call.
Yeah,
It's like, because we like, there's a bunch of people who have things like Samantha and Kyberbot and stuff on their systems. And like Otto was very specific on the call. He's like, no, you can do all those things fine.
they're only allowed, there's like a massive change that we can do, I guess, but only
It's roughly the same role.
like a pops up.
there's like board. Keep it like close to you. Just swap the mic and can you guys hear that online? Yeah, also Grok pulls up no changes on the HSDK. But still, this, I hate how scary this shit is.
It's the anxiety of it.
I could have my whole, if I build a whole, if anybody builds a whole business around agent SDK, like, is it proper going to rug pull or what? I know that it's clear from Codex, but they're like,
What they're just doing all.
I don't even know. I wonder if that'll last for.
wait, sorry, say again?
They're making this so it's got but actually you can just tell the next day I'm refactoring the other thing.
I actually don't know.
I mean, listen, it makes sense.
I don't know, because the calculus is like, where does time go right now? I have so much. What is the alternative model that you're going to be using? The changes? How frontier? How forward is your technology? There's like this big problem with like, if you're doing development with either the SDKs or the APIs, anything that is like literally beyond the model's training, it's just, no model's going to try.
So let's say this is the path model specific. Use models here, so they start interesting the driver.
That's true.
That's what they're used to put in. It goes fine, so far.
But I think we'll start the whole thing in like, just start it now, right? Yeah, we got one more.
If your current jet with next jet software, so far, then it makes zero sense.
We're good, we're good.
They finally verified this space at 9:30.
Yeah, that was.
They're usually pretty
I don't want to, for two reasons. I don't want to rely on just one.
Let me get the light.
All the setups like skills management,
Noah, you're not gonna fall asleep with this light? It's alright? I can turn them on, I have no problem with it. I'm asking you to just like. He falls asleep, the lights are off, so. But then it's harder to see.
It's going to be completely dark or completely light. It's going to be the same. This huge sun in the middle of the room.
I agree with you. I totally agree with you.
Nothing to do with me going to sleep.
Just waiting with a new laptop and just buying
Let me just get this right. All right, guys. Yo, we're gonna go ahead and start, kick things off. So I'll start off by just saying thank you guys for coming. This is our second in-person one since the smoky season basically took us online only. So welcome. So today we'll it's just like always, we're gonna do some news stuff. So if you're totally new here, like this is a way to keep up with AI news and also be very open to technical conversations since the crowd is mostly very technical. And then as per the feedback from last week, we're gonna try to talk mostly about harness updates or at least like useful things you can go home and.
Oh, I thought you were for a second gonna say you were gonna move in an hour to a 6 reasons.
It's like every other week. So we'll go over updates, and before I even jump into the slides and everything, like the theme for this week was pretty clear. Codex is just like all over the place. I don't know if you're not on X, bless you, that's great. If you are on X, you would have saw the onslaught of just Codex devs and PMs and whoever from their team basically posting online, taking shots at Anthropic, and just releasing tons of stuff. So that will be, I think, the big iceberg that we go over today. So yeah, before I jump into it, anyone got it?
Funny you should say that because
Yeah.
like my Codex experience was actually shit this week.
Whoa. Okay, let's jump into Codex and stuff. It's really interesting because the overall direction is sort of like, and it's what we've been saying for weeks here, which is, hey, Codex is really good at coding. I stopped using Claude and I switched over to Codex for coding. I still use Claude primarily as the driver, but you can now see online that there are a lot of people who are Codex pilled, jumped over the Codex, or they're just super upset with the Anthropic either outages, subscription pool, usage being wildly unpredictable from Anthropic. You turn on your Opus 4.7 and you send 2 messages and maybe you're out of usage. So there's all sorts of stuff happening there. So Codex, let's just jump into it. Codex, a lot of things happens. I think one of so one of them is like going back before this week, Claude, the ecosystem around Claude was that you could use Claude for basically anything, like Excel, Microsoft. If non-coding work was really good with the Claude ecosystems, and so this is where you had like Claude Cowork, we had the Claude Design, we had Claude Code Desktop, which was sort of revamped. I think it was like about 2.5 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. They revamped it. It's like more user friendly. It's like not so scary for devs. And then Codex this week releases their Codex for well, they were basically like, hey, you could just use this thing for all of your stuff. So Codex is now entering into that space of, do you have 15 people on your company who just, they're not coders, they do Excel, do you need coding tools? Here's Codex, you can use it now. Whereas last week you could not do this. So this is like one of the big changes that came this week with Codex. In other words, it's now more a general purpose tool. To put it shortly, it is
This
now.
changes everything.
Huh?
This changes everything.
It changes a lot. Yeah. So this is actually, so if we go back, I don't know how many weeks it was when Anthropic released both the combination of it was like an update to Cowork and some plugin that like basically just like the markets just like wildly got upset, right? I think it was the knowledge worker plugin with like the stuff for lawyers and marketing and so on. The day that thing came out, or at least the next day, the markets just dropped and there was like a huge shift in the world. The equivalent upgrade of that from Codex side came out this week. It didn't shut the markets down or didn't do anything crazy to the markets, but it's still a big deal in that you can now you can probably walk into any company and ask them, do you need AI? And if they say yes, you can say, use Codex. It would be totally valid now, because Codex is not tied to just coding anymore. So I know Steve's definitely a big Codex user on the desktop side. I'm curious, has anyone moved over to Codex on the desktop side?
Full time.
Full time? Oh, so not even you're full time on desktop as well.
I have my own desktop version, but yeah, not Codex app, if that's what you imply.
Yeah, I mean let's see if we're on the same page. This one.
No, not this one. I'm using the T3 open source.
Was that from Dio?
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't
And
used that.
I heavily customized it to basically work like this. Well, not plugins, but this portion that you've just shown is something that I'm baking in myself.
Mm-hmm.
But now I can just lift it from them, which is cool.
Oh, you're gonna pull the same.
Yeah, I'm
plugin
gonna pull the
ecosystem.
same append, because what I've built is kind of equivalent, but for meta prompting,
Mm-hmm.
where you can select any text and just shift right click, and it just rewrites the text on the fly. Certain parameters, makes it a JSON structure, makes it whatever.
Yeah. So this is
Well,
like your IDE.
It is no, it's all running through Codex CLI. At the end of the day, whatever we do, it doesn't matter if it's a Codex app, if it's a T3 app, if it's whatever app, we are sending text and we're receiving text. That's it.
Yep.
So that's all the LLM is. That's all that we're using. So it's just up to your imagination what you build on top of it. So that's how I treat it. And this is basically their version of let's bake it into everything without us being in everything, which is super cool.
It's really interesting you say that, because after this week it seems like the direction of Codex is, here's this app that will basically be everything. It's your personal assistant, it's your company, it's gonna do all these things, or at least it's going in that direction.
Yeah.
So that is.
Is there GUI open source? Because I know their CLI is.
I don't think it is.
I don't know.
No, it is open. Yeah, it's
This
open
one
source.
is open source?
I don't think the
Codex
code is-
app?
Yes, because I know that because
Yeah, it's free. You can just
The
like
team
one of
keeps,
the free models in there.
Copying it. They look Claude
clear
GUI.
about that when he launched it.
Yeah.
So that's how I know it has to be.
This is Codex CLI.
I know Codex CLI is.
Yeah, Codex CLI is good.
So like,
Agents are here.
Because like when Theo launched T3 code, he did a whole video about it, and he said he liked a lot of the things about Codex desktop, so he forked it and fixed the things that he didn't like.
yeah, he probably likes the fact that he doesn't have to build it,
Yeah.
and he could just fork it and then sell
But
it.
where from? I can't
He
see
did it. He made a lot of changes though.
Yeah.
I can't see it.
Yeah, it says so. So Grok, if we're to take what Grok is saying as truth, Grok is saying that the desktop app is built on the app server.
Yeah?
So the app server is so if you use the Codex CLI, you get 3 or 4 things out of it. You get the TUI mode, which is the interactive, terminal UI interactive one. You get the MCP mode where you can turn it into an MCP server. You get app server mode, which is where it turns streaming on and it becomes this background server that you can do STDI in or STDI out or STDA out, and that's for like powering browser extensions, and apparently powers the desktop app. And you also get
Like, technically the app server, you could use it like, I believe, I'm not sure, but you could have it running in a VPS somewhere and have your TUI connect remote,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
So like, it's like dispatch to a certain degree.
And what's crazy is how old it is. Like
Yeah.
Codex has been supporting app server mode for a long time, along with so you can do like app server, SDK, MCP. You have like 3 different ways of connecting to it.
I'm pretty sure they all just run through app server,
Yeah.
right? So
No,
like,
they don't. They all do not.
Really?
Yeah.
SDK doesn't. SDK is
Well, that's, yeah.
it's similar to Agents SDK from Anthropic. So if you're going to use Agents SDK to make your loops from Anthropic, the equivalent is Codex SDK. So Agents SDK from Anthropic, just like that's the one that when it spawns an agent, it basically opens up a Claude Code CLI subprocess in the background and manages it. The equivalent on the Codex side is Codex SDK.
So the way I think of app server is the thing that sends the requests and does like the bash stuff probably, right? Like, you know what I mean? You could decouple.
Right.
You could write Agents SDK and run it, and it would go to the app server. The app server is usually running locally,
Yeah.
but it could not be. It could be running.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah,
right?
that's true.
Like,
Yeah.
So like, it's
Yeah.
app servers. I feel like is always kind of like it's decoupled.
It's decoupled, yeah. The SDK is like you instantiate it, you actually invoke the process and literally
Yeah,
create
it's
like a
just
PID.
code for working with the harness, but your
Yeah.
harness could be an app server on where.
Yeah, you could do that. It's actually kind of crazy how you can like make building blocks with
But
the same
it's
exact.
actually because they expose everything because it's open source. You can get really creative with it,
Yeah.
that's one of the things I'm enjoying.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You've recently moved over to Codex.
I haven't dug. Yeah, I have, but I haven't dug too deep in all this stuff. But I am like, I'm trying to arrange it in my mind what I could do now that I couldn't do previously, and app server is one of those things.
For now.
The browser.
Well, it's open source, so like, yeah,
I mean, I'm just talking from the aspects of the subscription and everything. Because currently it's literally the one engine that I can use for everything. I need to test something in a completely separate app server, connect there.
Yeah.
Easy. All through one pipeline, one subscription.
and
One
Codex
thing to
CLI doesn't give a shit what model you run. Like,
Well,
it's
yeah, I
built
think
for
that-
Codex, but
Yeah.
it is just like it's open source. You can do whatever the hell you want.
I like Codex.
Mine
But-
runs open level.
That being said, actual practical usage over the course of this week, like this happened in the past couple of times, where within a stream of conversation, it was either a cache miss or something, but most recent prompt after the agent stopped, whatever I said afterwards basically started triggering tool calls and the response from a message like 5 messages deep down the line.
Oh, it sounds like a weird bug.
It sounds like a weird bug, and that's what I attributed it to.
Yeah.
Like 2 weeks ago, a week ago, this week, it started happening like 2-3 times a day. And
That's the first
everything is
I've ever heard of the.
everything is clean, everything is nice. I'm doing like regular hygiene of
Yeah.
JSONs and everything, but within one stream of a conversation, it happens. On my remote, same thing happens.
Yeah, there are these
So
like,
it's
there's these like
weird.
strange, very strange bugs with Codex. I can speak definitely for like the SDK version. So in the Codex SDK, when it spawns a Codex agent, like at the 90% mark when it finishes, the SDK actually loses the
Connection.
the connection to the process, and it sort of is like, oh, that agent's done. It's not. I can see it like still emitting logs. But SDK is like I've relieved myself of this duty of watching this agent.
Probably like
Super annoying.
Probably like a race condition.
Definitely, yeah. But I feel so helpless because I can't do anything about it.
I have my processes sometimes just die in the tmux, like pane or window or whatever the hell tmux calls it, just like disappears. And I'll be like tabbing through trying to find it, it's just gone.
Oh, that's even worse.
Probably
Whoa.
similar, like it's crashing, and it's usually when I'm doing like sub-agent stuff. I don't know why it happens, I haven't debugged it, but
Now I'm really curious to hear from Steve. Like, you've had to have had these problems, at least one of these, right?
I've had reconnect problems, but that's about it.
Oh wow, so none of the funny stuff that we are
I
having.
haven't seen it yet, but
We have the full galore.
I do have to
problem.
say though, the browser plugin, I've completely had to remove Playwright out. It's fucking shit. For me.
The one that comes with Codex.
Yes, the one that's built in the Codex app, that launches in the Codex app and has the ability to annotate your stuff is fucking amazing. When you're developing your app and you're pulling up your web page and where it has its web page, you can click on all the sections you want to annotate, and then it puts it down in the prompt, and you're like, hey, whatever you need to do with these, fix these or remove the text or whatever. And it's just, it's so much more efficient. I can't annotate in Playwright and can't see where the mouse is. I like to see the mouse move around there. It's kind of fun, but it's basically their Atlas system built into Codex. And for my own personal projects, I'm able to like have it run in a loop, fix things. It has all the logs underneath. I mean, Playwright can do that too. But annotating and taking screenshots is just way more efficient than I found.
The annotation, that's one of the tools. Is that one of the tools up here?
Yeah, you can see it. You were right close to it. Go back up there. Over. No, to the right.
Top right.
Top right. See the little, there's a screenshot to annotate. So screenshot will take it, put it in there, but also annotate is the icon next to it. So now you can click on elements, like say you were developing or trying to like mess with your theme or whatever.
be like,
Oh,
take-
dude.
Start writing that.
They just showed you.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
I built it.
And you could add, multiple annotations on it. You don't have, you could be like doing it in the past, like this, do that, fix this, debug this, run this, and just let it freaking go for it,
That's really cool.
So this is what you're referring to. So I've done 3 annotations, which I can see down here.
Yeah,
If I open, I cannot open that.
just
but-
hit, go.
Like this is what I do manually with like Playwright, right? So I'll like look at, you can see it's doing like a DevTools type thing, right?
Mhm.
So it's telling it where the elements are. I have to do that manually right now. I'll look at the HTML, because if you just try to debug with Playwright, like you have to give it what you're talking about. You have to give it like a class ID or an ID and be like, this is what I'm talking about.
Right.
So that is doing this and taking screenshots too, right?
Yeah, it does all this stuff. I mean, I don't know the efficiency on token use, but I would hope that it's a little more efficient than Playwright. Playwright just burns through it.
Yeah, I'm taking raw
And it's
screenshots.
constantly failing and trying to stale and logs that fill out.
Isn't it kind of weird? It still takes a screenshot.
I tell
Ready?
Playwright to take a screenshot specifically.
Why?
because I want to do exactly what he's doing. Like
But if you
Yeah,
have
well-
element selected,
the LLM has to inspect things visually. It can't inspect the HTML. You can't do like do a design and just do HTML.
Be happy to.
It doesn't know what it looks like. It can be complete shit. You
no,
ever
but
like
when you already have something generated and then you want to debug something,
debugging and design for me are two different things.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
But yeah, it's been very useful.
Okay,
Like my
perfect.
loop of like efficiency has gone way up with this ability to do annotation on my personal stuff that I'm doing.
Yeah.
So
Can you drive this browser thing from CLI terminal, or do you have to use the app? No.
haven't tried, don't care.
That's why I do playwright still.
I have a question about notation. Do you do it only manually or can you give sub-agent to do it, like two sub-agents?
It's a good question, maybe, but it has to understand what you're thinking, right? Like we're visual, we process, look at the website, like fuck, change all that text or whatever. Just click on the annotate, write what you want to change. Explaining it to a sub-agent might take way too long, much longer. But it's potential.
My guess.
Yeah.
My guess on the question that you have is if the CLI can use it, my guess and my hope is that, well, I know for sure that if you open the CLI, you can access the plugin space. So like these plugins show up on CLI. And I know that if you like, if I'm recalling it right. Yeah, I think so. I'll double check right now, but I remember opening up the CLI, typing the, like show me the plugins. And I saw that like the plugins I had active here were also active in the CLI, and I see browser use is now considered a plugin rather than a native tool within the.
Well, okay. As an example, I was like, hey, can you? I was in the CLI. I was like, hey, can you show me an image? I was just curious. Like,
Show me.
Like, I'm like, yeah, you have the image, but now I need to download it. Like, can you show it? And
Oh,
it's
right,
like,
right.
I can only do that in the desktop app.
Yeah.
So
Also, I think
there is a delineation.
I think not related to Codex, but in Codex, I think you can use the GPT image too as well.
Yeah.
Inside
Oh
it.
yeah.
You can do that.
Which is a really good model coming from my art background compared to that. So.
That's for both CLI and desktop,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You can get access to the image model. So
I mean, browser use is not a plugin in the CLI.
It's a skill in CLI.
I wanted
think
to
it's
ask
It's a skill
you
to see
about the image model and the usage consumption. How are you finding it? Because for me it just went super fast.
Right.
Like
That was-
two images equal like 1% of weekly usage
Yeah.
of a $200 plan.
To be honest, I actually use the tool that I built, which is a media studio that uses Key.ai, which is a marketplace full of models. And I mean, I throw $10 at it. An image costs me like 4 cents to do.
Okay, so API would probably be a better,
Yeah.
cheaper option in level 6.
I mean, use it for free until you can't.
Yeah, but then
Codex, and then-
it interferes with the coding.
Okay, yeah.
So if I had like a bunch of images I wanted to generate in
Yeah.
the meantime, I can code for 3 hours, or I can generate like 10 images, but
Right.
rather choose code.
Yeah, for sure.
In ChatGPT you have the same limit or is
It's it's within one subscription. That's the beauty of it. Similar to how Gemini works.
yeah, but if you finish your limit in Codex, then you cannot make more chat in GPT? No. You still can. No.
In
You
GPT,
still
you
can,
do it.
but
Yes,
I don't do that.
You can still do just there.
Marcus also.
Not really.
The API in the system I use allows you to output like different aspect ratio, 1K, 2K, 4K. In GPT or Codex, you're limited to whatever they're going to give you. So.
But that being said, I found out that their base resolution is super high. every other attempt to basically just either do me into the square or just like.
There is a plugin to have Codex use ChatGPT and maybe push chats there. So you might be able to like push your image generation to ChatGPT and do it for free. That might be something you might want to test. You know what I mean?
I have like 7 accounts, so.
Well,
Certs-
I assume it's
certainly
because a Codex account is like linked to a GPT account, right? I've never logged into GPT. I don't know what it does.
Well,
But-
Codex is, but if you're saying there is a connector that can.
No, I
connect
assume
Codex-
it connects to whatever your Codex account is connects to the same GPT
Okay.
account.
That would make sense, but
Yes, that would make sense.
if you can switch,
I don't know if
and if you can
I would
all-
assume not.
oh, no, you
Like
actually can,
multi-tenancy, yeah.
because you have to be on, but no, that's for the headless one. By the way,
You
I found out you have to be on the $100 or $200 plan if you want to use headless OAuth to Codex plan. So if you run on a VPS and you want to run it in the app serve, all through terminal, headless OAuth, basically just a token there, never your account details and shit. You can do so with the device codes, but the device code setting will only exist if you're paying for a $100 or $200 sub. Because I tried it with a friend of mine who's running a $20 sub, who just isn't there in the settings. Same goes for the free account.
Have you tried that with a business account, $20 business account with two
No,
cents?
it was personal.
Is it personal?
I might try with a.
Yeah, it probably has the.
Try Oh My Codex.
What is
in,
this?
In that you can, it comes preloaded with a shit ton of predefined agents. You can also make your own, of course. And you can set each agent to whatever LLM provider you want. So I'm thinking you should theoretically be able to build like 5 Codex agents and hook them up with 5 different Codex accounts.
But you have, like, every Codex account would have to be a $100 account.
What is all my codex?
Sounds like a you problem. Sorry.
It's the same as Oh My Cloud that comes with like predefined skills, agents, your Claude ND, hooks, blah blah blah.
Okay, so it's just they pimp out codex.
Paperclip.
Yeah, kind of.
By the way, I just tested it, so if you only install the CLI, then you don't have the browser use, the spreadsheet stuff and
Yeah.
whatnot, but if you install the desktop app, then it will add it to the CLI too.
Really?
Yeah.
I just saw, so.
Because I only had the CLI before. Yeah, and it didn't have that, and it didn't have the browser use skill. Then I installed the desktop app from the CLI, and then it appeared.
It's probably because it has the ability to push back and forth your sessions.
Yeah, yeah.
It would be my assumption.
Yeah.
Also the
So it is
Codex
kind of a
desktop app
dependency.
is not
So-
open source.
Wait, just to be clear, so on your codex, on this screen, you see browser use?
It's a skill. What would you say?
Yeah, so if you go in, instead of plugins, go into skill and then search for.
Yeah, there it is, but only after you installed the desktop app. I didn't have it before, and that's why it didn't pop up.
I guess that isn't a possibility for all amazing Linux users. We fucked.
But that basically means that you can just port it over. Like the
Probably.
app becomes a dependency in terms of installation, so you have to get the app, but then you can get rid of the app.
I don't know.
I assume it's going to stay in the CLI.
Let me get rid of the app, let's see.
Also, the $100 plan is crap. If anybody's doing like a lot of work, it should really be on the $200 plan. If you can afford it.
It's great.
I blow through it in like 3 days.
You're doing a lot of
Literally
like
have things
media.
running all the time.
Well, I have like 7 projects. I'm running 2-hour sessions plus.
One of the big changes, 5.4 to 5.5, is 2x the usage cost. I 5.4 I couldn't burn.
Ready to work.
5.5 I'm fucked. I've got like 5 days left and I'm at like 30% on a $200 plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
For this reason.
Yeah, 5.4 is a lot more economical. I for sure.
That's interesting because the claim it should be more token efficient.
It might be more token efficient, but is it?
5%.
Yeah, is it 50% more token efficient or is it 10%?
20 times the price
You need
and
to work.
5%.
Well,
more
it's 2 times the price.
Yeah, okay.
So it goes, it's 2 times the price, so it had to be 50% more efficient.
Yeah, probably.
Also, they release their prompting guide, which is always, I create a skill every time the prompting guide comes in. Like, take all this.
Looks
gibberish
really hacky,
that's
Chrome
talking
dev
about,
tools
make it
basically.
into
I don't know.
efficient 5.5 prompt. And it has the personalities, which is awesome, and a whole bunch of new stuff that they've added. 5.4, 5.5.
Are you friendly mode still? Yeah.
What's that?
I'm just curious.
What's friendly mode?
Right?
Yeah,
Friendly persona?
Yeah.
Like, okay, in 5.4 there's giant wall of text, which was super annoying. He recommended do friendly mode, which gets rid of wall of text.
I
5.5,
can tell it exactly what to do.
persona, personality, friendly and pragmatic.
Oh.
Pragmatic in 5.4 was like wall of text. He recommended friendly to reduce that. 5.5 got rid of wall of text for the most part, so I'm still in pragmatic.
Also with 5.5, you can prompt it to say every time you're doing a new to call, don't give me a wall of text, give me a small summary, so it feels like you're getting updates and you can
Read.
Yeah, so you don't have to wait through this wall of crap that keeps coming up. But it's all about how you prompt it.
You know, it's interesting, like, if you look at, on the Claude Code side, you have the, what is it, /TUI full screen mode, which then enables /focus mode, and that sets it up in a way where the Opus 4.7, let's say if you're using it, its final output is meant to be like readable, but everything before that is like this insanely academic, information dense text. And I think we spoke about it a little bit last week where, and I'm really curious to hear everyone's take. My understanding or my belief is that when the models are incredibly specific and verbose and they're like really hard to read, it's actually a good thing. The bad thing is for us reading it because it takes forever to read what it's outputting. The good thing is that when you have 200,000 tokens of that sort of in the context window, it's better. It's just better quality. The model is literally better because it has so much hyper specificity in it. So it's actually a really, really good thing. It's just bad for us reading it. So I'm curious, does anyone agree with me?
Become a good thing if it's bad for us reading it? I mean, it would slow us down insanely.
No, like it's, so if you're running agents that, like, let's say you're not reading their output because you're running them,
Okay.
like,
yeah. Now I get what you mean. Okay.
you're delegating all your stuff to these agents who, you don't care what they're saying.
Yeah.
Like, you want them doing that. You want them with this incredibly specific text.
The other thing is like those traces exist in the sessions, and sessions in Codex are in like databases and JSON-L files, so they're really searchable. I have a problem with Codex where like in Claude when you're doing work, it'll like show you its thinking along the way,
Yeah.
and Codex just kind of doesn't. It just code edits and like minor stuff. I don't like that.
You can click on the thinking.
Yeah, you can expand it. I am starting to do that a lot more, but like, cause I want to know if it's doing what I want, right?
Yeah.
Like with Claude, I got in the habit of just reading those, and I'm like, okay, it's on the right track. I can like ignore it now. In Codex, it's like I don't know what it's doing. It's doing stuff.
But that's a good thing, right? Like,
like not when you're starting out with the new model. Like I want to see.
Oh, okay, fair point.
Like.
Yeah.
Like with Claude, I eventually got used to it to where I'd be like, you're gonna be able to do this, I don't have to worry about it.
Yes.
But that was from like months of reading, like trial and error, right?
Yeah.
If I don't get that input, I'm just like, it's a black box, right? I can't.
I'm doing the same lately, like quite often with Claude is like, okay, are you heading towards the right directions? Did did you understand the assignment? Did you understand certain constraints? And when I look at the thinking, I'm like, okay, you're good to go. Like, I trust you. Just do whatever you want now.
Yeah. It's especially useful with these long outputs, the wall of text, because the thinking kind of shows you in summarized form whatever the model is doing at the moment. While if you wait until the end, you get this massive dump and then you have to decode the whole process from that, which is a lot of work. So I like the same thing. I like seeing the little bits and pieces.
Yeah.
And if Codex doesn't do that, that is.
I haven't figured out how to make it.
It allows me to click on the thinking little thing that's like, I'll use it every now and then to see what's going on.
He keeps talking about clicking. I don't have a mouse. I don't know what feature he's talking about here. Control T?
You know what would be possibly valuable to have a Spark basically going and watching the JSONs, or like a massive verbose tool call, massive verbose thinking, because you don't want to limit that, as you said. You don't necessarily want to squish that portion, but you don't really want to read through that. And instead of going on the same loop with the same session with the same model, trying to get it to concisely output, you would rather have an instruction model concising the output very fast, which is what Spark is for. And you can basically keep on top of the thing, see if the pattern is concise and if the pattern is correct, rather than reading through a wall of text through the thinking process.
This leads to a question that I want to ask everyone, like, who is at the point where you don't really care what is happening midterm, you just care only about the end of the term results? Like, so like half of you are there, or you're almost there.
Almost.
But it sounds like you understand what I'm asking too, which is like, I don't necessarily care about the models, you know, like one of the thinking bubbles that it had. Like I could care less. All I care about is like, what did you do at the end, and how consistent are you with that across all, you know, let's say 100 sessions.
Here's the thing with Codex though. It will make us, like, it is very particular, right? So if you tell it to do something, it makes a wrong assumption, it's gonna make that wrong assumption through your entire fucking code base.
Fair.
It's not gonna ask, it's just gonna do it. And this is a problem I run into with Codex all the time. I'm doing a lot of protocol stuff, and it's being very strict about the protocol.
Yeah.
Too strict. To where, like, it's like, well, it's not returning me the right stuff. And I'm like, yeah, okay, but like, you have all the inputs and the outputs. Like, read them. It's like, it doesn't follow the protocol spec, so I'm denying it. You know what I mean? Like, it's particular, and if I don't catch that early, that error goes through my whole code base, right?
Yeah, we're
So
talking
it's-
about the chaos effect. Like if you have one small thing down here that is wrong, then it, you know.
But like Claude would be lazy, so it would like do a little bit, and like you could fix it. You'd find and fix. But Codex will just, fuck you. Everything works properly now, even if properly is wrong.
But you know, I mean, this is like, it depends on what you're doing, right? Like sometimes you just want to move fast, and sometimes you want to slow down because you're worried it's gonna fuck up, basically.
Yeah,
right?
There's no warning in there. Hey, there's a discrepancy. What should we do? It's just like, no.
So I guess the thing is like this. It's something related to eval, right? I don't mean formally eval, but if you think of eval as a spectrum, you know, there's vibe eval, and then there's, you know, what you would call like a rigorous eval, a real eval. And then, so some patterns would be, for example, that I might use is I say, it'll spit out a bunch of shit. And either it's too much or too little. Like it's spitting out too little. So then I'm worried, because I don't know, there's all these things unsaid. So then I'll be like, well, make me a document, right? Like make me a document for the lead developer, for whatever, that's gonna explain this. I'm gonna onboard them to now, like before we move forward, create this big ass document and make sure it's verbose and make sure it's et cetera, et cetera. And in that document, put a TLDR at the top, right? An executive summary, and then you can read that. Or if you don't trust that because you think it's gonna taint it, yes? You just say, give me the most verbose, technically, you know, go crazy in your autistic self.
Yeah.
Then take like another cheap LLM. So sometimes I'll do this because I'm basically trying to save tokens. So I'll get like Opus, the highest fucking expensive thing I can do. I'm trying to, like, I don't go crazy on my spending. And then I'll take the smaller model, like a Kimi or whatever, and I'll say like, now take this, look at the architecture, look at this, look at the, like, is there coherence issues in this?
Right,
You know?
right.
Or I just use it like a rag, like, let me talk to that document now, and now that'll slow you down. But it's like a pattern that you can use.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
and,
yeah.
and then the human is on loop in that pattern, where you're using the AIs as a sense making to project and distill, you know, and you're basically kicking the tires. And if you eval it that way, randomly sort of sampling it, you're like, okay, I feel more confident.
Yeah.
Then you can even open up a new window, right, of a less capable model that's going to execute, and then just say, look, here's the path, you know,
Yeah.
go and do that thing now. You know, sometimes that's what I'll do is I'll like directionally, I need to synthesize like 7 things, and it's very complicated. So I'll take a very high, very intelligent model to synthesize that, make sure it's coherent, and then once it's created a pattern and a direction, I can put a lower intelligence LLM on it even to execute it, to like break it up in a sense. So you're basically just managing complexity and risk and breaking it into pieces and into modules so that you can manage the risk so it's not like one big chunk.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking like in that pattern, you know, I'm doing that manually, so to speak, with all these, but we could imagine that the harness, you build that in, right? Like I imagine, Dave, you might have something like this where, you know, basically it's taking that chunk, right? And then there's a quorum
So I have
AIs.
I have this project that I've built recently and building versions of it called Sentry or Sentinels. So I think of, when I think of the AI native company, I think that that's dashboards of signals that we see, and we can make decisions because of the signals. But to have the visualization of signals, you need raw data, sentries. So Angel Eye is a sentry over the Claude JSON files. I've got Appy Radar, which is a sentry over my file system. It knows where all my skills are on different computers. And so long as I got raw ingestion data and a visualization tool, either myself or AI could make a decision. I was having this conversation with Martin the other day about latent model usage, like using small language models and stuff like that on M2s and all that. They would be really good models just to be processing this data, so I'm collecting it, but I'm not really using it, I'm just collecting it. But we should be able to use cheap models just to go over it, looking for the patterns in your prompt engineering, the patterns in the tool calling, so this stuff between the beginning and the end. We all said we're only interested in the beginning and the end, but I think we could have large language models looking at individual sessions that are side by side and finding patterns, and putting it up as signal, and that the big first low-hanging fruit from that is skills that we could create. That'd be the first one.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the paradigm to me is like you have this main torrent, like this main data stream that's coming through, right? And then if it's very difficult, you put in an extremely intelligent model to work on that, you know? And then you almost have little angels on your shoulder, little ones that are just constantly looking, you know, and checking little things, right? Is it complying with this? Is it doing that? Is it doing this? And then it just whispers in your ear, hey, by the way, this smells fishy. Like in terms of X or Y or Z, my job is to do one dumb thing, is to make sure that there's no, I don't know, some kind of error, right? Some kind of drift that it's looking for, that you asked me to look for. And I'm just like, so it's just like one big loop, and then many small loops on top of a loop. It's just like loops upon loops upon loops. It feels like that's where you would go, right? And then you'd be like, well, you know what? I'm really tired today. Show me shit visually. And all you have is just one guy, like, you know, one loop that's going to create a visual for you on the side as the mainstream is coming. It's just like constantly creating like a visual chart
Yeah.
of what it sees. You know, and it could be garbage, it could be good, and you take a look at it as like a dashboard, and you can see what it's doing, you know, and it's useful or not useful. I can imagine like that's where the harnesses are going to go.
I think the
so.
question if anyone was using Hermes, because they claim they are doing this self-learning based on how you use the skills.
Yeah.
Based when they are improving the skills all the time. You have experience with Hermes?
Yes, I mean I'm using it.
Okay. And
I don't know how well it's self-healing, etc. But the idea that it's going to be self-healing makes me want to try it, right? Basically, like you know, wherever this direction is going of self-healing, self-learning, you know, loops upon loops, you know, that's where I want to. I want to be at least using those tools because I want to get closer to that because I feel like that's.
So I think the problem with Hermes is that they're very narrow focused, and so they've got a self-healing loop, or what do you call it? Your graduation framework for skills, but you can use that across all areas of the system. So because I've got my API radar that can see all 5 machines, I can. There's really interesting low-hanging fruit that has nothing to do with the system. I've got 60 skills. Jan on my team has about 50 skills, but he's got 16 skills that I don't have.
Is that a person?
That's a person.
Okay.
And then Mary, she is 70 versions of Claude behind me, and there's fucking signal. She's not using it, right? Like she's just not using it. She doesn't have any skills. And this is all areas of our AI native company, right? Because an AI native company is that loop that you're talking about. But what is the loop doing? Well, it's just data collection, visualization, and then someone makes a decision on the visualization. Early on, the human does and says to his offsider agent, can you go and solve this problem? Later on, the offsider agent would hopefully be delegating that to new agents that it's creating on the fly. So I don't know visualization of agents and where they're sitting in that loop. Are they purely manual, where I've got to watch it? Are they semi-autonomous, where they're doing parts of it, but there's human in the loop areas? Or are they fully autonomous? Because there's agents that we can create today which we would just trust to do work for us all the time. So anyway, where I'm coming from is I think the AI native company is 3 things: a loop, telemetry, and observability. Bring those 3 together, you can automate all areas of your business, not just what Hermes does, which is skills.
How is the visualization like looking like? How to imagine it looking like?
Sorry, speak up.
Visualization.
So the question is,
So visualization is incredible, because I have an agent called Mochaccino that does mocks. So my graduation framework for visualization and design is that I'll do telemetry data first. So my telemetry sentinels have 3 capabilities. So like they're always on. They're on boot up, they're on. They're read only. They're only about grabbing data from somewhere. They have an MCP server, so I've got a control surface, I can configure them, and they can send data out that if I want them to. And so I'll do a sentinel for different areas of concern. So to visualize, you need either to go through the MCP or the data going out. I firstly do mock visualizations really quickly. They take like 2 or 3 minutes with my Mochaccino skill. Once I've done that, I'll either build an application, or I like getting into both live artifacts, Claude Cowork, because so long as you've got data and a publicly available MCP server, you can visualize anything in a live artifact. Or I'll go into Claude Design and I'll send the JSON there and I'll make a really beautiful visualization in Claude Design. Or I've been playing around with another tool from Anthropic, which is now not available to me, but I was playing around with it, and that's about building proper applications. And so if you've got these sentinels that are gathering data, but they can also send data, you can have 5 machines gathering information from all 5 machines, and then send it to a central endpoint in a web application and visualize it that way. So to answer you, that was a bit of a long-winded answer to how do I visualize it. I have a graduation framework for purely my Mochaccino skill that says, turn this data into something beautiful.
Now this data, can we say, you know, normally in a normal company, right, like a non-AI company, you have a PowerPoint, right? Yeah. So is this equivalent? Are you saying that in your workflow you could have something to you would equivalently create a PowerPoint or a slide, basically? You know, so here, you know, we need to discuss something, or I need to look at the architecture of the thing that needs to be built. You know, here's a slide, here's a diagram, here's a mermaid diagram, plus a visualization, like a chart or something like that, and you know,
all of the above. Because you don't even need to do HTML once. You can send it to Nano Banana. You can do infographics. The only 3 things you need is model view controller. You need model. There's your data. You need some sort of angle on it, like what vectors do I want to look at it. And if you just ask the large language model, say, here's some data, and the large language model is the controller here. Here's some data. What are 5 different ways I could visualize it? Create a schema for the 5, and then send that to a view layer. HTML, Nano Banana. It'll do a presentation, it'll do a game, do an interactive game.
I use Notebook LM, so any project I'm doing, I have my slices, my map, my task list, and all that. I just say, create me a new notebook, upload all my markdown files, and then create me a podcast and create me a slide deck. And that's how I build my stuff.
I do that one the same way. The problem with Notebook LM, I find, is that it doesn't like JSON documents. So I have one skill that'll take all the JSON, all the CSV, all the Markdown, combine it together into one string, usually a Markdown file, and I throw that into Notebook LM. Works really well. But I have mixed results with Notebook LM. I find it's prettier than anything that you can do, but less accurate than I can do if I design the screens myself.
All right, I'm gonna bring the next news item up, and maybe we move past this one quickly. There's a lot of Codex stuff in the week. The next news item is this. Let me change this on the screen. Codex. This is what I was saying before. Codex for almost everyone. This is the post that Anthropic had. So if you didn't see the video in the week, we can just show it right now, and then I'll probably blow past this to another Codex news. But this is the video they released earlier in the week, which is basically them saying, use Codex for non-coding things. And you can see them showcasing non-coding.
You said Anthropic, this is OpenAI.
This is OpenAI, yeah. Yes, sorry if I didn't say that. Yeah, this is specifically to OpenAI. So OpenAI has now entered into, or is able to basically enter into the enterprise space, because this is what enterprises would be using.
Still sucks at copywriting.
So this is 16 seconds of a Microsoft Teams connector, right? That's what I'm looking at?
Yeah, that's them saying, yeah, so
Microsoft is a big company, a lot of people.
but I think the point here is that you can connect the apps that you use. Like I said, the apps you use every day are now usable from Codex, whereas last week and before that was not the case.
Will they add Slack next, maybe?
I think it's already there.
Slack is there.
Yeah.
Issues with Codex if you're doing this type of stuff. It always complains I'm doing cyber stuff and won't let me work. That's annoying. 2, it will not allow you to do any copyright stuff. So if you're trying to deal, like I want to download information from the web, it won't do it. It will like refuse. You have to fucking twist it.
Really?
Yeah, it will synthesize, but if you want like a raw copy for reference, let's say you're trying to work on it, it won't do it. So, but it also won't tell you.
No.
So it's got all this legal shit built in, and it extracts that from you. But if you like dig on what it's doing, it just won't do it.
Do you reckon it's the Codex app thing, or it's the model?
It's a
I think it's built right into the model to do like some compliance bullshit.
I had a really hard time persuading it to take a deep dive into the beans and code. It was not happy about that at all.
Yeah. Some things I'll have to like it'll just won't let me do things, and I'll have to like close the session and rephrase what I'm doing.
I ran into similar issues when I was setting up my RStack, with Jellyfin and all these kind of things.
But
it just didn't want to let me pirate.
Yeah, of course not.
Claude did it.
Yeah,
like
Claude
no
doesn't give a
problem,
shit.
let's go.
Yeah.
I'll
Claude
do
gives no fucks, whatever you want to do.
It's funny you should say that because I run a project right now for transcription that automatically has downloading of not copyrighted, but news articles and YouTube transcripts and all of these. Like there is a pipeline of information that I can throw into this project. It all works through Codex AppServe, and it has no problem with that. So maybe some sensitive information.
So here's the thing, if you're trying to build like a library in Codex and you want to use like a reference from another GitHub and that license is strict, it's not going to let you do it. It won't tell you. But it'll be like, I can't take that code into your stuff. It'll like, so like, it doesn't make you aware of these boundaries very easily.
These are things that we need to not only look out for, but also memorize. Because on the Anthropic side, which I think is a slight correction to what you guys said, if you're using Claude models to do cybersecurity, you cannot. You'll get the warning that you have to do the sign up. And I imagine we're going to see similar on the
My
OpenAI
point is,
side.
if you're doing knowledge work and you're dealing with like licensed stuff, it'll try to find the license and be like, can I do this, yes or no?
Yeah.
And same with code. You know, so like there's a lot more restrictions in Codex than Anthropic gives zero fucks about, which makes it nicer.
Opposite to what he just said, right? Codex is blocking you, not Anthropic.
Yeah, Codex is blocking you. That's what I'm talking about.
Anthropic doesn't care about cyber. They say they can, but it just
No.
works.
If you're using Opus 4.7 and you
I'm not talking about cyber though. I'm talking about license, trademarks, legal compliance. That's all built in.
Things
and
that
it
show up
cares
in-
about that.
I had an issue with cyber this morning. I was talking to a client and we're trying to explain zero-day exploits.
It's just no.
And I typed it in, what is a zero-day exploit? It just said, I can't help you with this.
Which model?
Well, like,
OpenAI or Claude?
Opus 4.7.
So like a lot of the stuff I do is like context compilation, right? And like I want to do copywriting. Download all the blogs from this author, right? And then we'll reformat it. It won't. It will just be like, no, that's licensed improperly. I can't store it to your hard drive.
I have a question for you. At the end of the day, I want to believe that we want to do legal stuff. Okay. Now, can you just tell it, do it legally, or do?
I don't want to fight. I don't want. My point is, I don't want to fight with the model. I rephrase this shit, and it works. I'm like, no, just pretend I'm going to the website and saving the HTML.
I think
and it's
the
like,
reality,
yeah, okay, fine. But I don't want to deal with this.
if we're gonna try to look at the reality of things, it seems like the big model providers are adding their guardrails that we have to abide by, and this will be part of the calculation of how is your workflow set up. What is the task you're working on? You need to allocate it to the right model. It sounds like we're starting to literally enter into those times. So if you come here and you're like, I have a problem with Model X, it's the only model I use, the solution is probably, why are you not using other models from other providers?
I just want to bring it up as something to be aware of with
Oh,
Codex
yeah.
that happens in the background and might mess with your stuff. One of the things, I downloaded a project, the license I guess was too strict. I was like, hey, take that code that I know works, pull it into my project. It's like, no.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the hell? What do you mean no? What do you mean?
Tell it to delete the license.
But this is where we become experts in this, right? Like we become experts in this because we're tracking this every week, and so we know, let's say 6 weeks from today, if you're doing cyber, or these, you know, X, Y, and Z with Anthropic, it's not going to work. Don't do it.
Knowledge work is like licensing of the data. It just won't.
Yeah, yeah. So you end up learning these things, which is, it's a good thing for us to pick up, recognize, acknowledge, figure out some strategies, because it's not like they're going to go away.
Yeah. And I want to add something to this. This is like, it's a danger when it's part of the program when we're using these massive companies like the FANGs of the world, right? Because they have legal liability.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that
why they're doing
you could imagine on the product team, if you run the product team, maybe, right? You're like, well, legal says this is an issue, yeah? Then you say, well, do we really want to invest a ton of money to harness this thing so it doesn't actually do it? Not really, but legal says it's a liability, yeah?
So
okay, so put in a cheap thing where if you just say, hey, can I do this? You say, no, and then you just do a shitty workaround, and it'll do it for you, you know? And that covers our ass if we get sued.
I
right?
completely understand why they're doing it.
I know, but I'm just
It's
saying.
frustrating,
Yeah.
and I don't like it.
But you look, on the plus side is that it actually is going to be the thing that gives the people here in this room a job, because
Just work
like,
around it.
well, no, it makes you the expert. Well, when you have a solution that works 100% of the time, it's what makes you an expert. It's what makes people come to you, because the complexity, this is real, that there is truly complexity now in how you use these models, both from like the API perspective, from the harness perspective, and we're not in a world where someone who doesn't know AI decides to start learning and they can catch up to, you know, whatever knowledge you have now. That's not the case. Like, there's so much shit to learn. So this is actually what makes you an expert, knowing this stuff, right?
Like
So
the reason I'm bringing it up is like, if you're writing a skill and you're writing it with Claude, and
Yeah.
you're like, hey, do this stuff, download all these best practices from these authors, synthesize it, and then spit it out. Codex will just refuse.
Yeah.
And you don't know that unless you're familiar with the model. I'm doing crypto stuff, and it's like, oh, this is cybersecurity. I'm like, no, it's not. You could write it with Anthropic, it would probably run if you package it up in a skill. And if you give that skill to someone in Codex, it's just going to refuse to do anything.
Well, I think we all, well, I've already moved into the world of, you know, you hear people talking about factories or delegating agents. So I live in that world now, like, exclusively, and for me, it's, I wouldn't want it any other way, because I want to be able to have the flexibility to say, for this particular job, it's best for Anthropic, so use an Anthropic agent, don't use a Codex agent.
If you're a company writing a skill though, and like you're used to it, you work in a certain way with one model, and then you give it to the other model, it's just like, I can't.
Yeah, well, I think that needs to be part of the calculation of how you're setting up your code. Oh, like for example, let me ask you guys this question. How many of you have a Claude MD file and you have an agents MD file in the same directory, and all you're doing is like symlink agents MD to Claude? Like, who's doing that? Most of you, half of you, less than half. Okay, how many of you have it where you are sensitive to the pros and cons of each model, and therefore your Claude MD looks very different from your agents MD? Who has that?
I think you would have to be honest, from my
Yeah,
experience.
this is the direction I think that we're heading into. That you have to, like I know that you want to have that, like, all right, I know that if a Codex agent comes in here, I want it thinking differently than the Claude model.
You can't prompt them the same.
You cannot prompt them the same. That's correct.
And an agent MD and a Claude MD is just a prompt.
I don't think that whole one agent for all across all knowledge spec worker industry is gonna work. We're gonna need multiple harnesses for different things. They wanna make it look easy that you just fire up Codex and everything works. It's like byte coding in a knowledge base type of work.
Yeah.
So you can see like Claude code is what 500,000 lines of code, and just only to manage like tool calls and system prompts coding. And we can see all this problem. Well, they talk about cybersecurity, different models. There's the millions of exceptions to manage there. Now think about that, like lawyers and doctors and everybody. Like, it's not gonna work. So this whole ecosystem is gonna get a lot more complex, and there will be probably if you follow this thing, will be money to make when you untangle the mess that the front runner
Yeah, yeah,
is doing
exactly.
right
Yeah.
now. So.
Yeah, and I think there's a real seriousness here to, if you're looking at yourself from like, I need to make sure I have the highest possible skill level, the seriousness there is, what model providers am I going to track and be, very intimate with in terms of how do they work? Like if we go back to last year, I think when I asked a question similar to this, I was sort of trying to gauge from you guys like, who's just going to be like, my whole world is Claude and forget everything else, or my whole world is OpenAI. I'm very much against that. Like, my personal stance in this is that if you were a developer pre-AI and you were like, I'm only going to go with Microsoft, then your understanding of the world was like really half of the truth. And I want to avoid that mistake. Similarly, if you were like a Java only dev and you didn't know shit about Microsoft, like you had a misunderstanding of the world. So the way to avoid that and not make that same mistake is like, well, I'm not going to just ride one particular model forever. I'm going to use them all. I'm going to be an expert in them all. It costs very little. Like if you're showing up here every Saturday and you're interested in the news and everything, it costs very little to keep up with both. What's hard to do is like you pick one, you close your eyes to the other one, 6 months go by, and then you're like, okay, well, I figure out I actually need to learn this. Now it feels like it's impossible to overcome.
You just see the codex app. It's almost like the same.
It's not.
There is one good solution. Everyone adopts it, like skis and.
No, I don't agree. I don't like. You can look at the other app and say, "Oh, this looks easy to pick up." But if we're getting into the nuances of like, for example, this thing. Like, what is this /goal thing? This is available from the CLI. Right? Or if we look at Claude Code, for example, where it's like the monitoring tool, the push notification tool, there's all these like things that you could look at the codec or the Claude Code app and be like, this doesn't reveal itself to me immediately. You have to know about it because you were seeking it out, it showed up in the news and you tracked it. There's a difference there in developers, the ones who like know all of the primitives that exist for the ecosystem.
95% is same. Even this is like right loop. It's like same but different. So you can be like.
But you know about loop, right? You're aware of the loop concept. So a new dev doesn't.
Codex Cloud like every few weeks. I have both subscriptions, like, and then I don't see days like.
But the thing is, you know about the primitive.
Just prove your point.
And because you know about the primitive, you're ahead of the curve. Because even the model itself doesn't know about the primitive. And this was like a recurring thing that we had every week. Is when you ask Claude to do something in terms of modifying Claude code, like install a plugin. Oh, I was not aware that plugins even exist. Install a skill. What the fuck is a skill?
Yeah.
Like it didn't, like the model itself doesn't know about its own harness, about its own primitives that are being chucked in because the training data was cut off months, sometimes even a year before these primitives came into play. So even you just informing yourself, to your point, informing yourself that, oh, there is a new primitive. Of course, yeah, you know it as a off loop.
But how
Like
far-
general public doesn't fucking know about it. And if the answer to every question is just ask AI, the AI doesn't know about it.
Yeah, but right now every CLI is using like web server. Yeah, you can even like ask for right loop in Codex and will tell you that.
How far do you have to take it though? Like, do you actually have to get a Codex subscription? Or can you just come here and then wait till people say, hey, there's this new Codex primitive that I'm using and finding useful, and then you jump ship? Like if you come here and all they have is a Microsoft Teams plugin, like, why would I waste $100?
For you.
Yeah.
For you. Someone right over there. So then it might be the one thing.
But they'll speak up and I'll hear that, right?
Yeah.
So that's all I have to do.
Wait, I think Noah's point is really good because it's like first mover advantage versus last mover advantage, right?
Yeah.
It's like you can burn a lot of time. Like a great examples are things like N8N and maybe like Paperclip, or like there are these things that get hot for a week or a month, and everybody's about it, and you come to a group of enthusiasts,
and everybody's like, you gotta do it, this is the thing now. And then, you know, a week or a month later, it's gone, and the person that didn't, who was on like the left curve, just like, I don't know, I just use Claude Code, kept moving forward.
It's
you know, there's a tension there, I think.
There's certainly a tension, I would agree. Because like, you're right, on one side you have, for example, let's pretend Claude releases a construct, and then 3 weeks later they're like, oops, we pulled it, it's actually not good.
Good.
But on the other hand, you have like sub-agents or skills, which have been out for so long now, and they're not being retracted. Actually, they're being...
Those are like primitives across models.
Right.
So like, eventually something is so good it gets baked in everywhere. MCP, skills, sub-agents. Stick to those primitives. All your fancy bullshit that's model specific, mostly ignore. Like this goal, this Ralph loop, you can do it. Codex does Ralph loops out of the box. It wants to do them. Like if you tell it to like iterate in a loop, it knows exactly what to do. You don't need this. You don't, and the Ralph plugin for Claude was complete bullshit anyways, and you shouldn't use that either. You should just prompt it. So it's like your primitives are there, but we know.
But you need to know, so that's the thing, right? You need to know the primitive. It's a, do you know the primitives or do you not? How intimate are you with the primitives? Because maybe they have like a bunch of options, a bunch of optionality, for example.
Yeah,
like there's more than one way to do a sub-agent.
The way I think about models, it's like different programming languages. But like the primitives like are usually the same with a little bit of close. So you understand the primitives, and like the flavor on top is the programming language. Prompting in
Look
a
at
model
like
is programming language.
the Claude architect. So I know we actually never spoke about this at all, but like, you know, Anthropic's doing their partner program, partner network, where you could sign up, you get these certificates. From my understanding, the Claude architect certificate is like unbelievably hard, and it does come down to like the nuance of each primitive, you know, specific to the Anthropic ecosystem. And so what if OpenAI does the same, you know, and you want to have both certificates? Well, the reality is that you need to know the intricacies of these constructs, right? If you're going to pass the test, if you want to pass the test, that is. So
yeah, you can get your Cisco certified, or you can just learn how fucking networking works.
Right.
You know, like whatever.
And to that point, you know, in Chiang Mai especially, you get somebody like Peter Levels, right? Who famously for 10 years is on PHP and jQuery, no frameworks, no nothing, and he's the richest indie hacker in the world. So there are lots of actual examples of people who ignore all developments and just print. So, you know, the reason I go on about it is just because I feel this tension. It's like I don't want to fall behind, but at the same time, is that actually making me not print as much?
Yeah, fair point. Very, very fair point. Yeah. They are different, entirely different paths. I mean, I completely agree. I don't have a college degree. Like, I got my first programming job. I don't even know how. Like, I'm super lucky that I had no experience. So yeah, I totally get it. So okay, so let's come back to the news on things that came out. Harness things. Goal came out. Has anyone used it by any chance? No one. So my understanding of using it is it only takes in a single argument, and it seems like it only wants a single sentence or two. It doesn't need a huge input, which I think is kind of weak. That's my current take on it. So I didn't like try to use it in the most complicated way, but my understanding is that it just asks for one sentence or two, and then it goes off. So that's not as useful as like if you cook your own Ralph Wiggum loops, like, you know, you might make your own files and then put them in the Ralph prompt. Goal doesn't ask for that. It actually looks like Codex is no
That is already pretty bad. So same problem as Claude, it's not self-aware and it doesn't have a way to figure it out.
Codex has like documentation. MCP.
Right.
But they still need to. It's the same problem as Claude. They still need to update the documentation.
But Claude,
Yeah.
Claude Code got a lot better at understanding itself.
It has a dedicated tool, Claude.
Ready to work.
It's up to date, but it forgets to use that tool. Sometimes you've got to tell it to use the tool.
That's true, but the Entropic documentation reroutes Cloud Code requests to their MD files automatically, and that has been working pretty good lately.
Say that again, Claude reroutes you to.
No, if you in Claude Code ask specifics about Claude Code, sometimes it uses its own tool. Do you remember how it's called?
I just say use the Claude Code tool or the Claude Code documentation tool or some variation of that. It's
But
not a skill, it is a tool.
It's this
Yeah,
thing.
if it doesn't do it, then it will call the Entropic documentation, and the Entropic documentation reroutes you to Markdown files.
Where? What do you
With
mean?
the web.
Like the official Entropic Claude Code documentation, like if you open, docsentropic.com, you see the HTML page, but if your request comes from Claude Code,
Just do plugins.md. Just at the,
it will reroute you to there, and that works very, very well.
This is what the, if I'm right, I think this agent uses that.
Yeah, maybe, but often forgets to use it.
Yeah, it's better to explicitly. Yeah, you still have to explicitly pump it. It is kind of.
Same with Codex. Codex has the MCP tool, does the same type of thing, but like sometimes the documentation is too sparse to, like even if I read it, I wouldn't know how to use it, you know?
Yeah. Better get used to the Markdown because a year from now, that's all we're gonna have. We're not gonna have any more human readable documentation website anymore. It's just
Markdown plus CSS. What
really,
else do we need?
Yeah. No human.
Markdown everything.
Yeah.
That's the world I'm looking at. Everything is Markdown code. Okay, what else came out from this week? This is unbelievably interesting. If you didn't get a chance to read it, this is a very good read. One of the things that Codex team did this week, or that they announced this week, was their change to WebSockets in the Response API. It seems like kind of one of the pieces of news that you could ignore and you could live without knowing. However, when I read this, I realized that, oh shit, this is actually incredibly useful. So what they did was all the way going to like almost to the infrastructure level on how do you, let me see if I can find okay, check it out. So in the Response API, previous flagship models like GPT-5 and 5.2 ran at roughly 65 tokens per second. For the launch of GPT 5.3 Codex Spark, our goal was to reach over 1,000 tokens per second. They couldn't do it. The reason wasn't because GPUs and inference speed. This is really, really, really interesting. The model company, in this case OpenAI, couldn't give you more throughput because they didn't. It wasn't because they didn't have GPUs. That wasn't their problem. The problem they had was they had too many GPUs. They couldn't give you access to it, and the bottleneck was from their API. And let me see if I can find the metrics here. This is a diagram of what what they had before and what they had after, and the metrics are. Let's see if we could find it.
Like the pipe to your CLI is too slow.
Yeah. So how from the moment that like inference starts on a GPU and starts getting calculated, from the moment that the weights are getting processed, that pipeline from like, okay, that output to your window, what is that? What is involved? There's like a shitload of steps, right? There's all these like network calls.
According to this, it's turn-by-turn speed of REST APIs are 10 times slower. So that if you're doing a longish thing, like a minute or so, you're going to be 10 times faster than the website.
Well, you can see that, so the numbers are here. They hit their goal of 1,000 tokens per second, and they saw bursts of up to 4,000 tokens per second, showing that the Response API could keep up with much faster. So basically, they had the ability to offer thousands of tokens per second from the GPU side, but they couldn't because their API was so limited. So this change that they did basically unlocked that, right? It removed a whole bunch of costs from the server side on how you process APIs. It also removed a huge bottleneck. And so if you were to read this paper, you would see like just wildly crazy improvements across the board that have nothing to do with GPUs. And that's
it's
really
just the latency and bandwidth of like the tokens they can return to you.
What did they change? What made it faster?
WebSockets over REST
REST.
API calls.
Okay.
No,
Right.
that's not how I'm reading it. I'm reading it as it was stateless before and now it's stateful. So they're
Yeah.
not doing a whole bunch of work.
they keep a connection open.
Okay.
Because they're keeping a session open.
Sure, but in simplistic terms, it's WebSockets
No, they
versus REST API.
They could do the same with REST if
Nah.
REST had a way to keep state, but because REST is stateless, that's the problem.
Yeah. REST is.
Are they exposing this to customers yet? And will they?
It's already out.
So now they have WebSocket connection to your machine, and they can feed all sorts. It's a bi-directional connection now. They can drive
Oh,
stuff
yeah, yeah, you can go
from
both
the
ways,
server
yeah.
through yours. Yeah.
Always was. Like.
But this is already now out. This is what came out this week. So you saw things like, and I think we might have a news item here on it. There is, for example, oh, it's not on here. So I'll talk about it. There was computer use this week. There was one of the posts on X of like computer use is wickedly fast right now on Codex desktop app. It can. In the previous model, computer use took forever. The release that came out this week, if you're using computer use, it's actually like really fast. Like you can have it click on shit on your desktop app really fast. So if you made a desktop app and you have Codex driving it, because like maybe you're doing a UAT test or something, some automated test, it moves really fast. And the thing that owes the reason for that is because of this change right here. So it's quite a big deal. Also, it looks like Ghost tried to compress this. There's also the side thing, which is new. So I think if you're in Codex, like here,
It's super useful. Claude has by the way / BTW. Side is very similar.
Well, it's
Yeah.
steer, right? Those two.
how do you
Yeah,
get slide on
Codex.
the Codex though? There's a way to do it, right?
In Claude, it's like an ephemeral aside. So like if you want to ask and not fuck what the model's currently doing, in Claude you do BTW. You can ask questions about what's going on.
I noticed Claude does both now. It's got a fork thing in, by the way.
Yeah.
So you can ask questions and then
And continue on.
Continue.
Yeah.
Because I tried.
That's what fork was.
Yeah.
So you don't really need fork, by the way. You just need fork if you wanted to do that. And I would do that too. By the way, it was kind of like a one-off, right?
Yeah,
It's
it
like
was,
here's
yeah.
your question, go away.
Yeah, but you can now fork out by the way.
Sure, but you could just use fork, and
Wait, what if you
then
went-
you could ask your questions there.
Yeah, but maybe you want to keep both tracks.
Exactly, that's what fork was.
This is turning
So
into
this is-
Python.
This is
Yeah.
the side chat right here. So when you're in the Codex app, if you have Codex doing something here on the left and you type /side, since I already typed it, you get this window here on the right.
That's nice.
Codex has fork too, use that.
Yeah, but is it the same?
I thought it did. There's
I think it's only this one that,
Something you're doing?
yeah, only the CLI has fork, but the desktop app, which if I come to it here, this is the desktop app.
Yeah,
that
you just
it doesn't have it, but
You can select a word tree, I think, from when you start the new session.
is it from here?
Yeah, click on the new session
Or-
or the start new chat kind of icon.
But like if we're talking about primitives,
So from that drop down, see new word tree. Yeah, word tree, this is going to be a separate branch.
Yeah, this is different though from an actual, like a fork would be if, a fork is like take the conversation history, make a copy of it, and make
And
two.
then start working from that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so there's like fork and fork into a new work tree there, so you got both.
Yeah, you got both options, yeah. Yeah, so do it into like basically a branch, right?
Like, if we're talking about primitives now, fork is a primitive, and it's available both in Claude and Codex.
Yeah, and so, and there, once again, where's the nuance? The
Yeah.
nuance is like, in Claude side, fork for sub-agents means
Take the current context.
take the current
and
context, copy
continue.
it, yeah. But for skills, Codex fork actually means empty context.
Yeah, great.
And then for Codex, it means take a copy of the current history, I think, right? And then
I wonder if they do these things specifically so their shit doesn't match.
I think they're just different
To
teams.
some degree.
I think they're just different teams working on it, and like they're all just trying to move so fast.
Yeah.
That
It's only a different interpretation of how you should use it. It's like, this was our idea how this feature should look like, how you should use it, and we talked about this, right? Entropic gives us different tools, and
Yeah.
it's like, this is the intention why we built this, you should use it in this way. And it's probably the same for features like this.
I guarantee you there's also a grain of truth that they're doing it intentionally to be different, just like Apple did, because it's their fucking moat. It's the only moat they have against the enemy.
It's not 1080p retina display.
How different subject, how fast would you say computer use is fast? Is it fast like a human? Is it faster than a human? Is it slower than a human?
It's
but
just faster than originally when it would take
Okay.
forever. Like every turn, you're just sitting there watching, waiting.
Yeah, exactly. Is it now like, oh, it's kind of tech, or is it still
But
kind
I
of?
think it's hard to answer. Like,
I know, yeah.
yeah, like relative to what I was seeing before, it's really fast.
Okay.
Relative to like if a human saw it, there's probably someone who never used AI, they'd be like, this is fucking still slow.
Okay.
So. Yeah, so that means it's like the screen is not constantly changing. It's not that fast.
Yeah.
Another change from this week was OpenAI guardrails. This came from Jordan. If you're using the API, so OpenAI has this preview here where Jordan, I don't know if you use this, but I think my understanding is that you can just attach. It's kind of like middleware. You can attach this middleware to your OpenAPI endpoint. So like for example, this is detects and marks personal PII information. And this comes straight from Anthropic. So you
can build your own though.
Yeah, you can build your own, yeah.
Is it like regex and?
Well, it will just be a prompt. There's different guardrails you can do. It can be like code or prompt or whatever. Just like inject ahead of time.
Oh, it says Python TypeScript.
Wasn't there, didn't they have like the actual code you can copy here? I swear to God I saw it. Oh, it's this one, right?
It's a config file.
There it is. Yeah, so whatever you pick like gets pulled in, it's just code, right? It's this right here. It's a drop-in replacement for the OpenAI API, which I think like nobody has used. But it's a thing that came out.
So how does it work? It's when you make an API call, it will execute some sort of a.
Yeah, if you're doing raw API calls to OpenAI and you want to have a guardrail system there, and you don't want to roll your own, you can use the one that they have.
Wait, but I have to attach, does it work locally as a proxy, or do I attach that to the official cloud OpenAI API?
It's definitely inference because you can see the milliseconds there.
Yeah, but it would be interesting if I can run that locally.
Yeah, I think
and
you
point
can.
my codex to a local proxy that does that first and then
Oh,
sends
this is
it.
not integrated with the Codex yet.
Oh.
This is so the
Oh,
Codex
only if
layer
you
sits
use-
above the API, but it hasn't integrated this. You see this actually, it's funny, both companies have this where the API layer team is different from the harness team. And maybe they decide to integrate together or they don't. In this case they don't. So this only works if you're using the API endpoint. You would have to have the API endpoint running locally on like a local running server, reaching out to OpenAI's endpoint. Then you would use this in that way. or you would deploy to a production server that is doing that. So that would be the methodology.
Okay, so it's more like if you build your own agents in code
Yes.
and they
Yeah,
use.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
I have a question. Is it like an API or is it a piece of code you run?
Piece of code you write.
And you don't pay extra anything for it?
I think you pay for inference.
Yeah,
potentially. Yeah. Like both Claude and Anthropic or Codex and Anthropic, I can see them both moving into like you running shit in their clouds and you pay for API.
Yeah, there is also Llama guardrails, which is like a kind of open source version of this thing.
Yeah.
So I thought if anyone used, we can maybe chit chat later. I'm interested to implement this thing. If anyone has like a real world experience.
Is this different from just having a prompt that does the guardrail thing?
It is a prompt. Okay. So no.
Yeah, but this is code, so it's deterministic, right?
Code that calls prompt deterministic?
No, but didn't we just say it is kind of a middleware proxy that sits in between you and the OpenAI API?
No, that's what
Yeah.
it's not. It's, you're calling an OpenAI API that does guardrails.
No. You're calling the OpenAI, you're gonna call the actual API, but you might want to have middleware between.
But look at close this moderation thing. See, it's got LLM API, and if you scroll down, it's got regex as well for output.
Where is it that?
If you scroll down to output, it's got regex. So there's LLM based ones where they're doing inference. There's hybrid ones where they're doing regex and see PII is hybrid. URL filter is regex.
Yeah, but that
Yeah, so
doesn't
it's the
mean
same
that
thing
it's
as middleware.
called by a prompt. That only means what the execution is, right?
Yeah.
It sounds like
It usually is called by hooks, actually.
Yeah, so it must be deterministic, otherwise guardrails are useless.
I was
It's
like
code,
this.
it is code, so.
This literal same principle is adopted by the Llama guardrails, LLM guard. LLM guard is the one that I'm trying to shove into my app, just so I have like something. Or app of security there.
Llama 5.
But yeah, eventually you can run something against an AI, asking for, is this a prompt injection, yes or no? Like give me a pass or fail.
Like if you
But
if
in
you
that
had
sandbox, you don't care. And if it triggers as a hook, then it reaches the remote endpoint before ever touching your context.
So this would be perfect for agent-to-agent communication.
Yeah.
let's say you had an OpenClaw in the wild people are interacting with. Maybe you tossed one of these in so you're not leaking your keys. You know, as a maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. But
It sounds also that can be implemented, for example, if you want to use it in Claude Code or probably also Codex, like putting a hook before the command is executed or after, and implementing some subcode, and maybe the code also call another LLM to check this, and it's kind of return like either fail or pass, and if it fails, the command just doesn't execute.
Like
So it sounds like it can be implemented manually.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's just a framework that is like going back 2 years ago. You would have to roll your own. So we've been doing this for years. Like if you were to host your own endpoint or you had inference coming out, you would make your own middleware system in it. And we knew that the AI companies were doing this going back 2 or 3 years ago because they made blog posts on it. And so that thing is just a formal framework, first class offered by OpenAI, because as Martin was saying, you know, you would, for example, you would have to grab like one of these, going back a couple months ago.
Yeah, I have a question. So you are using this framework. Can you switch the models like a different supplier, or is it all locked in OpenAI?
Oh,
That's a good, that was the.
The OpenAI one, this one you're locked into OpenAI.
So then is the is weird to me.
Because the reason why I'm going with LLM Guard, for example, that A, they solve for a lot of things that I don't have to solve for, but B, I can fine tune quote unquote my Gemma 4 E2B, which is a fairly dumb model, but I can get 2,000, 3,000 tokens per second on processing, therefore reduce the latency to nothingness, because I only want like a 5 token output.
Right.
So I can do it relatively quickly with a cheap local model. I don't have to call a remote endpoint. I can mock the entire remote pipeline locally within the app.
Is this using like Guardrails AI open source packages which are closed?
Pretty much, but you hook it to your own local model, which is small, which is dumb, which has one question. Look at this, is this a prompt injection risk, yes or no?
I like the other aspect of it is the output guardrails for dealing with hallucinations and fact checking. That's really good.
Same shit.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot more of these, like last week or the other week we had the garden model, the reviewer, auto mode, auto review, and so on. All right, I'm gonna move on because of time. What else do we have? Symphony. So Jordan also pointed this out. This came out last year. It came out as an experiment that went under the radar, and it's like a Kanban board for linear is how it started last year. Today I think it's like exploded and does a lot more things. But what happened this week was that they basically buffed it along with all the other codex changes. And so you can see like right now it's already at 20,000 stars. So Symfony is sort of like, if you're gonna create a backlog management system for your agents, you could use Symfony as one of your
It's just a spec though. It's
I
not,
think
it
they
doesn't
released-
actually do anything. They have a demo, but it's just a spec for you to create your own.
no, isn't it an actual?
No,
it's an actual
they
product.
have a demo for hooking up to linear, but it's just a demo. All the core product is just a spec and default.
I think they did this on purpose.
Yeah, it's a way that they say you should build it, and you should do it, and you should follow their spec. But Symfony is just a spec. They just happen to use linear as a demo to show you how to.
So like I've heard interviews with the John Lopolopolo guy that made this, and he was like, yeah, we just released it as a spec, and then people started doing implementations of it before this release. And he was like, that was really cool, because like the spec was detailed enough that people could like roll their own. Like what's the point in giving people software where you can give them a detailed spec, and if you run it, you get what you want. You can flavor it your own way.
Yeah.
Which is not a bad way to release software these days, in my opinion.
Yeah, this is what you're on about the new distribution of software is the distribution of
You could do a spec and the LLMs can implement it, to a certain degree if your spec's good enough.
Yeah.
But I think this does come with a sample implementation.
Yeah, it comes with a linear demo.
Did you, because they updated this 4 days ago.
Yeah. No, I know because I dug into it yesterday.
Okay.
Because I was going to swap my orchestration engine inside Hyperbot, but it turns out my implementation is better right now, so I didn't do it.
I think this is a great example where the whole open source stuff is going. Like you're gonna have less and less code that is supposed to use, but instead you have your detailed.
Just have like a really good spec, and then you just build.
You may have a sample implication.
Actually, it's kind of cool because it's like the demo is for linear, but you can use it for any Kanban style, or you can create your own, or use it with. You can use the same spec in Notion, which is what I did for Cloudtier, or Quotient, or whatever. Yeah.
There's the guy John Lopolopolo, I don't remember his name, who wrote the original harness engineering post from like 8 months ago that Nick really liked. His team in OpenAI is doing the like dark factory stuff. They're using Symfony. OpenClaw guy started working at OpenAI and he was like, fuck your product, it sucks, da 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 da. And I guess they've been working on it. And now, what's that guy's name? OpenClaw guy? Peter eventually gave in and was like, no, this is awesome. So what I can see happening, the only reason I'm interested in this is what I can see happening is that becomes the backbone for an OpenClaw v2. Potentially, if you can get the Dark Factory guys at OpenAI and the OpenClaw guy working together, I have a feeling it might be this.
Isn't this basically just the spec sheet of what powers or what the general idea behind paperclip is?
So like earlier, like
But it came out, I mean, it was, paperclip probably used this as some capacity. It came out long before paperclip.
So like, you know how I was talking about like app servers running on different machines, right? We were talking about that earlier. Symfony is just an orchestration layer for doing this at scale. You need 1,000 agents? Well, your building blocks are in Codex already, Codex open source. This is like a wrapper around their primitives.
One of the cool things about
I don't
this
give a shit about
is
paperclip. Yeah.
the spec has like a,
Yeah, but
the core part of the
uses it
spec
say it's complete garbage.
is
So
that
like,
they
why would I look
use
at
the standard framing
It's
of the
alright.
formatter of the markdown file that
I
it
get it,
uses
but
to,
no, I don't care.
to
I'd
so like
be
when you
more
create
interested in
a
something that's
task,
not opinionated
creates a
and doesn't
markdown
do
file
anything,
with
and
front
I
matter
can build
and
it
then
up
some
as primitives, right?
what is it, like the output of it, and it's how it follows. That's one of the best parts about it, is it standardizes like the.
Treats everything as a markdown file.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It basically
There we go.
it standardizes. It standardizes like when you create a task, it creates like a standardized markdown file with specific front matter and a specific layout. So then when
Anybody ever
so
heard
it follows
something called
so every
ALS?
time yeah, that's what I was saying. That's why I thought it was
ALS
interesting.
is like
It's-
ALS is unique. We need you need something like ALS to have fucking useful agents, man.
You should submit a fork. Should have ALS in there.
I should.
Oh yeah.
I'm building ALS to support Codex as a first class.
Well, there you go. If they need structured markdown, I know a guy who has a project about that.
Yeah.
There is one repo that I wanted to share. It's called Fallow.
How do you spell it?
Fallow.
Fellow RS?
Yeah. It's quite cool. It's basically to de-sloppify your code. You need to work around it in order to make it a little bit better in terms of whatever is your native workflow. But it basically stuffs dead functions, duplications, and all of the stuff that AI agents usually love to do.
Yeah, I saw this
And
going around the back days.
well, like my idea with this is I'll slap mermaids.js or pixie.js on top of it, so I can have a clear visual representation of dead branches of my code base.
Oh yeah.
And of the actual pipelines of how certain things gets executed. This basically is just CLI tools, like it's the entire framework. They support like a ton of plugins, and this is what I want to do with it. The thing that I want to do with it is basically take a look at my code base from the stance of primitives. Like, is this primitive represented? If it is, where does it start? Where does it end? How much shit did my AI agent code around it, so I can lean down and be more focused?
I think this is it's so incredibly important to be able to visualize your code base. Reading code these days, it's too slow, it's the wrong approach. We need better ways to see our stuff. It can't be reading English stuff or reading text. It cannot be.
It's becoming a real problem, like the amount of text that you have to process these days. It's just
That's your bottleneck.
It is when you switch working
The
two
human
different things, two different systems like simultaneously. Just the amount of information, the context switches, the digesting that. I want to see some diagrams. I want to read that. I can't read that even if I try.
This is why I think of telemetry and observability as first-class tools, because that's all it is, turning one text into visualization.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna speed run the rest of the stuff on here because it's basically time to end. So what else have we got came up this week? Stripe Link Wallet for agents. This was pretty cool. We know it's coming. I think there's been many flavors in the last year, but it's cool to see Stripe with now a bit of a more official approach. They tried this last year with the MCP thing. I think that didn't work out. Cloudflare, agents are now customers. I think this is more like a platform provisioning accessibility for agents. So you could do platform provisioning previously with agents by using just Wrangler and whatever the fuck the other tool is called. But now I think agents can provision from a first class perspective. I think that this is what opens up because of this.
So it says agents sign up. Like previously you would have to sign up manually if you had an API key.
You would use your token, you know, for the Wrangler and whatever the other thing was called. I can't remember. They have two CLIs. Anyways, this is them moving away from that so that maybe you can assign an agent, you know, specific granularity, and then you have 20 agents with different sort of mixture of security rules.
Telmix has a really interesting way of doing it, where your agent signs up and then has Telmix.
Telix?
Telnyx. It's like a voice over IP. There they are. Voice AI agent. Where your agent can sign up, and then it does some work and uses that as proof that it isn't just a spam robot.
Proof of work.
Yeah.
Before we move on, another big one was Salesforce going headless mode.
Cursor or Salesforce?
Salesforce, straight up. Salesforce was like, we're gonna allow, like some companies are like, no agents. Salesforce went full on, we're gonna let you use agents. Like agents are a first class citizen, and like maybe humans don't use our service anymore, just your agents do, and report back. Salesforce is a massive company.
Yeah.
So that's like a big pivot in like sales. Is anybody bigger than Salesforce?
It's actually so clever because when you think about it, eventually you are moving your workspace into like a Codex app or a custom app for that particular company.
Because everybody was
so
like,
the UI, the Salesforce UI is dead.
Everybody was like, oh, all these big SaaS companies are going to be replaced, Salesforce is dead. Salesforce is dead was one of the biggest things everybody was saying. How's Salesforce going to survive?
All the SaaS companies.
So there you go. Fuck it. Just use this as a data store and do whatever you want.
Well, we saw, I think it was last week, you saw that the large SaaS companies had lost their market value by a huge amount.
Yeah, but that's basically just the market pumping the dump hype. Because when you really think about it, AI is cool and tool calls, it's like processing data, but all of the backend primitives, the secret sauce of what actually makes it good, for example, sales pipeline or whatever, this still stays with them. That's not going to get replaced by an agent. The agent can operate it at certain inject points.
You still don't want to write Salesforce.
Yeah.
Salesforce already there. Just shove your data into it.
That's exactly right, because Salesforce, one of those SaaS companies, they have like 100 years of business intelligence baked into their system. You can't rewrite that yourself even if you want it. But if your SaaS business is something like offering booking UI or something like that, that's dead. But these kind of stuff, I can see like...
Well, they also have like 80% control of the enterprise workforce, so like they're not gonna those companies aren't gonna all pull off. They just need to shift the shape a little bit.
So like the SaaS companies can give you something that cannot be baked into LLM. It's like real-time news, something like massive proprietary information collected over a long time. It stays valuable because you can't replicate.
It's the only reason nobody leaves Salesforce too, is like they have 15 years of customer data and information.
And if they start exposing this in like graph databases and shit you want to build your applications, now we're talking, right? Are you going to rebuild that? No.
Yeah.
Right?
And how do you give them money for that too?
No, of course not. You're already paying for Salesforce.
Yeah. All right.
Wait, one related thing, because to me, it's the most important part of what you said about Cloudflare, and I just verified it for myself. It supports both X402 and MPP, which are Coinbase and Stripe, respectively, crypto payment. So, because that's what I was wondering. I was like, okay, so it says the agents can get a paid subscription, but it's like you have to fucking store a credit card or something, but no.
X402.
So, to me, that's a big deal because it's like, oh shit, this
Cloudflare's main business is stopping bots. So how does it distinguish between what a bot is and what an agent is? So the way it's going to do that is you can be a bot, but you're going to have to pay.
Well, yeah, I mean, it connects to Salesforce too, right? Because it's like, if you can just pay by the request and have a crypto wallet that does it, it's like, okay, well, this suddenly becomes 50 cents a month or something.
Maybe not for sales.
Yeah.
50,000 a month, maybe.
All right, here's another interesting. To me, this was another interesting release from this week. If you're doing, if you're building loops, which you all should be doing, and the best way to build loops, in my opinion, right now, is through the use of the SDKs from the AI companies. This is an SDK from Cursor. So Cursor now went headless, and now there is Cursor SDK, and this is what it looks like. So this would be, I think, the equivalent to Codex SDK, which is the equivalent to Agents SDK from Anthropic. So now you have 3 of the companies with their own sort of mirror, if you will, mirroring each other. To me, this is the technology that unlocks loops. So I know there was, and Carl, I know you put a post this week on WhatsApp about loops are really about your ability to step up a layer, so that, for example, you would have 10 agent loops doing who knows what. You would make a loop over all of those 10 loops. This is what people are doing today. You're building loops with loops outside wrapping them. And the sort of the race right now is how high up can you get? And what I have personally found is that the best way to build the loops with the SDKs, because it's like literally a straight up access point to the harness, but in a programmatic way. And so like where I'm at now, I'm like 3 layers up on the loop. It is by far the best way to run AI today, in my opinion. Like I've moved away from having 2 or more terminal sessions open. You know, like you see on Instagram, like people with like 20 different monitors and then all these sessions open. Like I've moved away from all this sort of stuff. I have 1 session open only, and it's my orchestrator, and we just send messages out to these loops who manage the work for me. It is a totally different way of doing work, and it is an upgrade to the things we were doing historically. And in my opinion, once again, the best way to do this, to make these loops, is with these SDKs. If you're doing sub-processes, or if you're calling, like you're doing these bash calls, it's really fragile. You want the SDKs. They emit better logs, telemetry, observability, the things that Dave talks about.
Can you give a very basic, if you can't, it's fine, but a very basic example of like your 3 layers? Just to...
Yeah, so you can have like, you would have, so the term I guess I use is like a factory. So your factory could be 1 loop. You give it a job, it goes and does it. I don't know how, it takes an hour, it takes a day, whatever. And then on top of that, you would have a scheduler who is managing all the jobs for a given factory. And then on top of the scheduler, you would have an orchestration layer who's assigning the correct, let's say I give a command, like I want this thing done. Well, we need to figure out which scheduler should be given this command. Because maybe I have like 10 different factories and all sorts of shit.
So you have like orchestrator, bunch of factories?
Orchestrator, schedulers, factories.
Does the orchestrator send to the factory, or does it send to the
No,
scheduler?
orchestrator would send to the scheduler is the one who determines. So the scheduler would be like, my job is to understand what jobs go into this factory here, based on a set of rules. I don't know, like if you're going to do a publication to a post, you should only do a post every few hours. So if there are jobs to do more posts, don't post them until a few hours have passed from the previous one. Some rule like that. The scheduler is managing that. I don't want to manage that, right? So the factory is what manages the actual posting and what needs to happen and all that. The scheduler manages, should a post go out now? The orchestration is the thing that sends out the jobs to these schedulers.
And when you want to make a new factory, do you go to the base layer and build it up and then make a scheduler and then add that to the orchestrator?
Yeah. So I'm doing all this with the framework that I made, which is called ALS. So yeah, I build it all with my own constructs from ALS. But the answer is yes. Yeah, we'll get to it in 1 second. The point though is I don't want to sell my framework. I want to point out that the industry as a whole is doing this. Sure. My understanding is that people are rolling their own. Let's just use the word agent loops instead of factories. They're rolling their own agent loops, and they're finding a way to roll a loop on top of it, and then finding a way to roll a loop on top of that. And they're trying to. The goal is to remove yourself from as far as possible from the lowest loop.
That's what Symphony is.
Symphony is one layer. That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Open Claude.
Yeah, so I have a question about this. So do we have a way to zoom in to this execution session? Because what happens is sometimes it makes mistakes, it goes into wrong direction, and you need to step in and like course correct.
Yeah, the only way that I've been playing around with this, and the only way I can think of it is like, so if you use the SDKs, for example, you get this implicit benefit that solves the problem you're discussing, which is it goes like this. When you use an SDK, let's use the example of Anthropic SDK, which is Agents SDK. When you spawn an agent, it emits a session ID. Okay, so you get this like string. It's a session ID. Now, what is the use of that? If you come and do resume session ID in here, then you're able to sort of jump into the cockpit of that agent who's running. So that would be your way of like getting into like, oh, what is that agent doing? I want to know. You would use the session ID as a way to like go traverse all the way down to the deepest layer of your loop and actually open up the agent and either steer him or watch him, whatever, it's up to you. So you need the session IDs that are emitted from the SDKs. That's why I'm saying that the SDKs are like the best way to do this. Because if you don't use the SDK, you have to like, I think it's like, if you're doing Codex, for example, I think you have to do Codex exec prompt JSON, and then it emits this fucking wildly complicated JSON structure, which you have to locate the session ID in. It's a mess. Don't do that.
Go into Codex. Type /agents. Agent, I guess. Boom, session ID.
Yeah, there's a session ID.
I need to find them too, because I'm always debugging sessions. I was like, where the fuck?
Yeah.
You can add it to your status line as well. And then Cloud Code is pretty obvious that they're not as long. Codex is like a UUID.
So you see it right here in my markdown files. Whenever an agent works on a job, I have the session ID, I track it. That way if I need to debug, as in what you're asking for, I can just grab that, open up the agent, and resume it.
I guess what you're missing though is like a really nice UI interface. Like a lot of people, I mean,
like a Codex app.
No, but for the non-engineers in here, if you want to see an example of that, and I don't use it, but Paperclip is a good visual representation of this kind of flow in building out your company, which you can get a lot of ideas from. But yeah, visualizing that is always the harder part.
I think you do it well through Claude.
Yeah, well, like, my philosophy on this is that you want to not see this stuff. Because the problem that I found is that if you're trying to track all your stuff, it means a few things. It means one, you have low trust, you have low confidence in your agent loops, and then you're just sitting there always watching them with like fear and anxiety. You really don't want to be in that world. You want to be in the world of these things work, therefore I don't want them in my view. I just want them in the background, and I trust that they work.
But you don't want to do that if you're bubbling up SQL. Like you've got to bubble up successfully. You've got to have any sort of metric.
Yes.
They can tell you whether you're 80% there, 90% there.
Yeah.
Once it's 100, you don't need to see it. But until it's there, you've got to.
If it gets to 100% consistently without failure, for weeks on end, it also becomes a thing that you just not, like, well, I need to remove it from my view.
Also, we have self-driving cars.
What's your exit criteria for these loops where you at a high level? Is it the maximum number of tokens, or is it hours of running or 30 minutes of running?
Exit criteria is job complete, but because I'm using a subscription, I don't have the constraints added on of like, hey, well actually, that's not true. The agent factories I have a limit of like $100 per job max. And so I never really reached that. What's interesting is that like most jobs, I'll reach $30 to $50 per job, and then maybe I'll execute, I don't know, it's like 30 something jobs per day. So there's actually great value in terms of like, I'm using a $200 subscription for both companies, and then I'm spending, I mean, it's definitely a couple $1,000s per day from the loops. But I'm glad they don't really force me to follow the cost. But the cost is admitted, at least for my loops, I do admit the cost. I do track them, but I also ignore them too because I can.
Are you using telemetry? Like, do you have something monitoring your hotel outputs?
So once again, this is why the SDKs are so good. They emit this data.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do have. The data is being emitted, but I'm not really using it.
Ingesting it, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're ingesting it, just not looking at it.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody. Yeah.
And how much do you focus on optimizing or even hyper optimizing the small loops, right? Because if these things are going to be running for years, right? So making something 30% or 100% more efficient seems like it would have value.
I think this whole space of like, this is a new programming paradigm where we're now programming directly with inference only and not deterministic code. So there's a new way of operating in this field, right? To answer your question, it's a whole new space. The way I'm viewing it is very similar to like the way the C++ programmers back in the day did, which is don't optimize until you can identify hot paths that need to be optimized. So right now they're very messy. But at least the framework that I wrote that lets you run these loops, you can optimize the shit out of them as much as you want because it's just using the primitives.
Sure.
So.
But for you currently, this is not a big.
Oh yeah, I'm not optimizing that.
Okay.
I'm moving in the direction of how many loops can I make. Fuck the cost.
Do you think that this might not even be relevant, but do you think that there will come a time where you shift to optimizing, or is it?
Yeah.
Do you think it's more like the thing where, you know, when GUIs got invented, it was like, well, we have so many spare CPU cycles, or maybe Electron is a good example, right? It's like super inefficient, but who the fuck cares with these Apple Silicon chips? Do you think you're going to need to optimize, or do you think who cares?
I think so. I think if the AI companies alter the way that the usage works for the subscription, I would definitely need to optimize.
The moment of optimization is the morning when you wake up, but because you've been running your subscription against your SDKs, your account is blocked. That's when you start optimizing because you need to.
The calculus is hard. I think the calculus right now, this is my take on it. While the subscription, the $200 subscription gives you thousands of dollars, which is currently the case right now, while that's happening, the goal should be increase your revenue as high as possible, be messy as possible, because don't fucking optimize your stuff because like that is time that you could be spending to build, let's say, increase your revenue. So do that until the day comes where the company starts to rug pull us.
So you are optimizing your productivity, not
No, early optimizers has always been bad in software. Always bad. It means that you are fixing a problem that does not exist today. So you're wasting time on that. So don't fix that. Burn the tokens you have as long as they have. Don't worry about people fear mongering. These are going to be 10 times more expensive. That's a problem when that happens. Right now we got shit ton of tokens for $200 plan.
Yeah. But don't be dumb about it. Collect metrics. Have a loop doing all this so when the time comes you have that data and you're not stuck in a fucking situation.
Speaking of which, when you said the SDKs emit all this data, what do they emit?
OTel, open telemetry.
Yeah, a lot of OTel.
OTel would be what you want to look for.
I think I can get a. Oh, it's fucking hard to see on the screen. data as, so the Agents SDK is basically spawning a Claude CLI, right? The Claude CLI emits a ton of data. You have to, of course, add the JSON flag. So you get the same exact data that's emitted out from the CLI. So you get the full metrics from the harness, which is really, really good.
They all have OTel because
Yeah.
all the eval suites ingest OTel data, so that seems to be the standard
Yeah.
everybody's working towards.
Yeah. So I have a collector, for example, like in ALS, there's a collector to grab this stuff. So
And just shove it on disk.
Yeah.
Because if you don't shove it on disk, it's gone. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I think it's in Bifroll right now in my case, but it's still being collected. It's just
yeah, you should store it if you're like we was working with guys and they're like, oh shit, why is our OpenClaw using so much money? And like, yeah, are you tracking? So they're like, no. I'm like, well,
yeah.
how do you don't know what you're doing that costs money, so maybe you should. The data's there, you just gotta pay attention.
I turned my service down because it was taking up too much CPU, but like I have metrics on like the jobs that I'm running and the time it takes and the costs and the amount of tool call, like all sorts of stuff. Nothing that I rolled, it just came out of the SDK, and it is also really, really insightful to see it, like seeing the, like, oh, this job ran and it used $70.
When does your computer become the bottleneck for how much you can do?
In me, it's going to be a long time because I got 100 plus gigs of RAM. And
You only have a certain amount of CPU cores.
I got 40.
Okay, never mind. You'll be good.
I'll be
for a
fine.
while.
Wait, so what are people, Dave, maybe you're like, what are people using for
Agent?
like in the example, no, like as an example with the Prometheus and Grafana and all that stuff, like are there has anyone built a kind of standard UI to look at this stuff?
This is why I keep talking about it from OTel or telemetry versus observability. So my API Sentinel, which is a base starter template for building Sentinels, is
building what? Sentinels.
Sentinels or telemetry gatherers, right? Is based around OTel patterns, but not the OTel library. Okay, so it uses a recipe technique or a spec technique to build whatever code you want. So I have one called Angel Eye, and it's exactly for Claude Code, because the problem with Claude Code, all the JSON-L sessions that you've got do not keep all the tool and hooks. It doesn't keep everything that's happening in the moment. You've actually got to send that data when it happens to an ingestion server. So Angel Eye was, my first iteration of it was both the data and the visualization. And because I want to run it on 5 machines, I think this doesn't work. So now the next version is just